That's right. Prosecutors say 8-year-old Gabriel Fernandez was tortured and beaten to death by his mother and her boyfriend.
Again, in the case of 8-year-old Gabriel Fernandez.
Yeah, jurors will be deciding the fate of a man accused of torturing and beating that little boy.
News at noon, life in prison and death. Those are the sentences for a Palmdale mother and stepfather for the brutal murder of 8-year-old Gabriel Fernandez.
The trial of Gabriel's mother will take place separately later.
How an 8-year-old Palmdale boy was killed.
In a murder case involving the death of an 8-year-old, Gabriel Fernandez, his mother's boyfriend, Isalo Aguirre, is accused of killing the Palmdale boy. The prosecution believes he did it because he thought Fernandez was gay.
For a heartbreaking murder, this happened 4 years ago. A judge has just sentenced a Palmdale mother and her boyfriend for the torture and murder of her 8-year-old son.
Yeah, and the judge did not hold back in court today, sentencing them both with some pretty severe penalties and calling their actions evil.
Hello, what's up everybody? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Anna Karen. Hi, nice to meet you. It's been about a week or 2 weeks. Today's video is going to be a little bit more serious than my normal content. I want to overall just bring awareness to the situation, and this is a real hot topic as of right now, which, I mean, if you don't know about this story, then where are you? Where have you been? Today we will be talking about a boy named Gabriel Fernandez. I just want to throw out a disclaimer before we get started on the video. This is my opinion. I'm going to be speaking about this case. I'll be speaking about my thoughts on this case. This is my opinion. Please be respectful. Please be respectful towards Gabriel Fernandez and his family who are hurting. Maybe about a year or 2 ago, I was sitting down getting ready to do my makeup, and I, of course, ever since then, back then like I am now, I always love to watch YouTube while I'm doing my makeup and I'm getting ready. I had stumbled upon this video about 2 years ago about Gabriel Fernandez and his case, and I was super into this true crime kind of story involving children. So I heard about Gabriel Fernandez before, but at the time I didn't have a lot of information, or I'm sorry, the video didn't give too many details, so I didn't know about any of this when I first heard about Gabriel Fernandez. Recently, February 20th of 2020, Netflix released a show called The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez. In this Netflix series, they go on about the trials. Obviously, the title says itself. The series follows the trial and the prosecution of Pearl Fernandez, which is Gabriel Fernandez's mother, and Isaro Aguirre, which is Pearl Fernandez's boyfriend. If you guys have not heard about this chilling event, then you guys should go watch the series of The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez on Netflix. It's available. I believe it says it's a limited series. I'm not so sure if they're going to take it down anytime soon, but I suggest you guys go watch that before watching my video or watching anybody else's video about Gabriel Fernandez. So I'm going to kind of give some background information about Gabriel. Gabriel Fernandez was born February 20th in 2005. Right after the birth of Gabriel Fernandez, his mother, Perla, I was going to call her Perla, his mother, Pearl Fernandez, did not want to keep Gabriel, therefore giving her uncle and his partner Gabriel. Gabriel lived with his great uncle and his great uncle's partner for about 4 years. Up until those 4 years, his grandparents wanted to take custody of Gabriel Fernandez, them as in Sandra and Robert Fernandez. Up until he was about 7, Gabriel was staying with his grandparents, and when he was 7, his mom in 2012 asked if she can have her son back. The family did not believe that Pearl should have had him. In my opinion, I don't think, you know, if she didn't want her son when he was first born, why all of a sudden do you want to come? I believe that is why her parents allowed her to take the son, was because they believed that the son should always belong with the mother. In most cases, this is very true, but in cases like this one, it was not true. So the thing is that Pearl took custody of her other 2 children. So in all, Pearl had 3 children, 1 girl and 2 boys. They were all from one person, and this one person was Arnold Contreras. You guys, sorry, I have notes. I have 8 pages of notes here. So Pearl Fernandez had 3 kids with Arnold Contreras. All those kids, that is their biological father. Somewhere in my notes, I can't find it, but I know that I wrote it down. So in early 2012, Pearl did take custody of her other 2 children. I guess her 2 other children, Virginia Fernandez and Ezekiel Fernandez, did not live with her until 2012. She got custody of them too. That's when she had sooner asked to have custody of Gabriel Fernandez. So like the documentary says, Gabriel Fernandez was with his mother, Pearl Fernandez, and Isauro Aguirre. Sorry, it's really weird to say his last name, Aguirre. He was with them for about 8 months before his death. All within those 8 months, he had endured tremendous amount of torture from his mother and from her boyfriend. Gabriel Fernandez died May 24th in 2013. Immediately, Pearl Fernandez and Isauro Aguirre was taken into custody and would be put to trial for the prosecution of murdering Gabriel Fernandez. So that is kind of a little bit of background information, just for the people who haven't seen the series or have never heard of it. That is what's going on. That's what had happened. In the series, there was many things that played out to be held against the people who were being prosecuted, which was Isauro and Pearl Fernandez. Someone looking in from the outside could probably say, well, how did this happen? How did Gabriel Fernandez pass away? So I am from San Diego. Here we call CPS Child Protective Services. That is the name for the San Diego County. However, in LA, it is called the DCFS, which means the Department of Child and Family Services. And they were most definitely involved. However, they did not take any measures to go ahead and prevent this situation from happening. Many encounters did social workers from DCFS and the Sheriff's Department from the LA County have made contact with the Fernandez family. So in the series, John Hatami is the LA County's DA, the district attorney, and he is trying to prosecute Isauro and Pearl with first-degree murder with intent and involving infliction of torture. I'm gonna keep saying in the series a lot, but because I am referencing this series, in my opinion, and like I said, please be respectful, but I don't believe that Isauro Aguirre deserved the death penalty. However, he is to blame for the death of Gabriel Fernandez, but he did not do this by himself. His mother, Pearl Fernandez, definitely helped and had condoned that behavior. She inflicted this upon her own child. Now, I feel like, and I was actually talking to my mom about this yesterday, and she kind of brought up a really good point, because before I thought that, yeah, he did deserve the death penalty, but she did make the point of just because he took a life doesn't mean that we should take his life. He should suffer and live with the consequences forever. So basically, he should have, I think, and my mom thinks that he should have gotten life in prison with no possibility of parole. In my opinion, I think that Isauro was a very good person, a nice person, and until he met Pearl Fernandez. They made it seem series that Pearl Fernandez was this manipulator. The men that she would date, she would always want what she wanted, and if they didn't give her what she wanted, then they were cut. So I feel as though because Isauro felt like he had Pearl Fernandez, he didn't want to risk losing Pearl. Therefore, being under the control of Pearl Fernandez and Pearl Fernandez having Isauro wrapped around her little finger. Okay, so this is what, quote for quote, I don't remember who said this, but one of the people from the series had said that they would relate, as in Pearl Fernandez and Isauro Aguirre, would relate to one another through mutually abusing Gabriel. Now, I definitely think it's true. I feel like Isauro probably would do anything in his willpower to make Pearl Fernandez happy, and unfortunately Pearl Fernandez had no remorse for what she did to Gabriel. Basically, throughout the whole series, they focused a lot more on Isauro. Most of the time, he was the one sitting in the court. It was mostly him than Pearl. Now, I feel like although Isauro Aguirre did beat him to death on the day that he was sent to the hospital in the ambulance. Now, supposedly, the reason why he beat Gabriel to death was because he was upset that Gabriel had told his mom while Isauro was not there. He asked his mom, why do you let him do those things to you? This is what supposedly happened. So Pearl had told Isauro when he came back, and that Isauro was upset that he had said that, trying to make him look bad and to get Pearl Fernandez to leave Isauro, therefore ending up in beating Gabriel Fernandez to death because he was so upset that he was trying to split them up. In the courtroom, his attorney had mentioned that while he was beating Gabriel, that all he saw was red and that he started to hyperventilate. It doesn't matter if you see red and you start to hyperventilate. You know what you're doing, because this did not just happen with this one time. This was over a span of 8 months of pure torture for Gabriel. So Jennifer Garcia, who was Gabriel Fernandez's first grade teacher, had started to acknowledge that Gabriel was coming to school with a bunch of cuts and bruises, and he was starting to look disfigured, as in his eyes, he always had black eyes, his skin was missing, his hair, he'd have patches of hair gone with fresh wounds right underneath the hair that was starting to grow. Seeing that, I think Jennifer Garcia did a good job of trying to do something for Gabriel. She kept trying to call the hotline. She said that she called multiple times and that eventually the last time she called, she got no answer. She tried to get the principal involved. The principal said no, like he tried to brush it under the rug. He said, no, we don't investigate. That's not your job. I definitely think that Jennifer Garcia was one of the main people in Gabriel's corner at this point. Sorry guys if I'm jumping back and forth. There's just so much that I want to say because I have so many thoughts literally on almost every single individual who had a part to do with helping push upon Gabriel's death. When one of Isauro Aguirre's relatives were coming to go visit him in prison, I guess he had snuck in a camera recorder and recorded Isauro saying that my hands are clean, that they're making me say that I'm guilty for something that I didn't do. I personally feel like whoever snuck it in told them that they snuck it in, and that they plotted that you say this and I'll go ahead and release it to the media. I think he definitely did that to help his case. But the thing is that if he was so innocent, why didn't he say anything at all in the court? You know, why didn't he talk to his attorney? Hey, I really didn't do this. You know, maybe if he did, he did play part in hurting Gabriel. If he was so innocent, if his hands were so clean, why aren't you trying at all to show emotions, to show remorse, to say, hey, you know, I didn't do this? He didn't. So Pearl Fernandez in the docuseries tried to make her out to seem the victim. This was the defense team. They tried to make her the victim. They tried to portray her as a victim, saying she went through this as a child and now she's a product of the equation of what happened to her. In my opinion, IMO, I would think that if you went through that, you would do everything in your power to not inflict that on your own child. You would want better for your own child, right? Another thing that I thought was kind of peculiar was that when Gabriel... Okay, so what had happened? Okay, the night of the beating of Gabriel Fernandez, when Isauro had beat him to death because of what he had said to his mom, when they realized that Gabriel was unconscious, they called 911 and said that Gabriel Fernandez was playing with his brother Ezekiel and that he had fell and hit his head and that he was unconscious. That is what they said as to why they needed 911. Paramedics actually went on to go and testify against them and said that when they were taking him, that they didn't offer to come, they didn't want to come. They didn't ask about him. And even the officers who had arrested them said that they didn't say anything about Gabriel Fernandez. They didn't ask about what's going on with him. Especially Pearl Fernandez, all she would ask was where her cats were, and she asked about Virginia and Ezekiel, which are her other 2 children, but never about Gabriel, never about his current status and if he was okay or where he was. I definitely agree that Pearl Fernandez was the abusive one in the relationship. You can just kind of tell that she had the saying in that relationship. They also said that she was physical towards Isauro in public, that she would hit him, she would scratch him. Another thing that happened with Pearl Fernandez is while she was in custody, when they were trying to prosecute them both together, Isauro and Pearl, she filed like a, what is it called? I don't know what it's called, but basically they were trying to say that she was mentally disabled, that she needed to be tried separately. So they did. They gave her a test for her to take to determine how far or how low she was, and she bombed the test, basically meaning that she had a low IQ and that she was mentally, that her mental health was definitely down the drain. I think she did that on purpose. I think she took that test to make it seem like she was not in the right state of mind when that night had happened. I also found something a little weird. I thought it was kind of funny. Well, it's not funny. The thing is that the reason as to why Pearl Fernandez took Ezekiel and Virginia into custody was because they realized that they can receive welfare money due to having these children. So she started taking her kids in that way that they can have this new income. If you guys are wondering and you haven't seen the series, throughout this 8-month span, people did acknowledge that Gabriel was showing physical appearance of signs of abuse going on at home. Jennifer Garcia, his teacher, was one of the first people to be in Gabriel's corner. Another person, another security guard, actually spoke out just by one encounter. I guess Pearl Fernandez had brought her kids in, including Gabriel Fernandez, into one of the offices for DCFS, I believe. The security guard had acknowledged all the bruises on Gabriel. When they had left, he had talked to his coworker and said, "Hey, did you see that?" And his coworker kind of like started making fun of him, like, "Yeah, that was a stupid haircut." And he was like, "No, he had cigarette burns on his head. That's why his hair is like that, because there's no hair growing there." And she was kind of like, "Oh, you know." And he said that they should call the hotline. And I guess when that coworker had gone to, and I think her name was Marisela Corona. Yeah, Marisela Corona went to go talk to her superior. They said, "Do not get involved. We do not want to give you guys overtime. So sorry, just drop it." When Marisela Corona had went back to, I think it was Alberto Martinez, she said, "Sorry, we can't do it." And Mr. Martinez was like, "Screw it, I'm gonna do it." Although it went like against their policies, he decided to get involved and risk his job. You have people who, you know, don't work for DCFS, which again stands for Department of Child and Family Services. You have people who aren't working there who are trying to help Gabriel. So now you're thinking, well, what are these social workers from the DCFS doing? Where are they in this whole 8-month span? Many people had called them and called the sheriff's department complaining about what was going on with Gabriel, of all the physical bruises and things that they were able to see and report to them. And most of the time when the sheriffs would get calls, they ended up being low priority calls. And at one time when one of the sheriffs had came to their house at 2 a.m. in the morning, they were following up on a call about a complaint towards the parents. Pearl was basically like, "Yeah, he's fine, he's sleeping, he's okay." And the sheriff took his word for it. And Pearl even went as far as to say, "I think you should scare him. That way he doesn't continue this." And what did that sheriff do? So that sheriff came back at 7 a.m. and he took Gabriel Fernandez and put him in the back of his cop car and said, "If you don't cut it out, you're going to be the one going to jail." He is telling a 8-year-old, that this is what's gonna happen to you. And what was kind of frustrating was that every time a social worker or a sheriff's deputy would talk to Pearl, they would never ask to see Gabriel. They would never ask, well, where is he? Because if they did, they would have taken him right out of that home. They always seemed to believe Pearl. During the process of the prosecution, the DA actually wanted to hold the social workers who were involved with Gabriel's specific case accountable for their lack thereof. I believe in total there was 4, one of which was Stephanie Rodriguez. In the beginning of all the abuse, Stephanie Rodriguez was assigned this case. They said that she was fairly new to the department. They put her in such a critical department that I don't think she had enough experience for, which obviously wasn't her fault. She was put there. But the thing is that there's so many policies and procedures that I'm sure social workers need to take, and I'm sure most of those were not taken into account when Stephanie Rodriguez was pursuing this case of Gabriel Fernandez. Another person who was tried was Patricia Clement. Patricia Clement was another social worker in which she actually was a nun for 10 years, they said, and that it was weird because since she was a nun and she started working for the DCFS, that she was actually very vocal towards her coworkers, and it was very hard to get along with her. So I thought that was kind of weird. However, Patricia Clement and Stephanie Rodriguez failed to do their job, basically. I constantly ask myself, what do I want to be when I get older? And I find myself constantly changing that. Before, I wanted to work, I wanted to be a corrections officer. Now I want to be a psychologist in the corrections facilities. Now I want to be a social worker. But the thing is that we all know social workers don't get paid enough, especially because of their workload, their caseload. In the series, they were saying how each case, how I believe each social worker would have about like 30 cases. I don't know. It's either 30 or it's like 200. They're very different. They're on different sides of the spectrum. I feel like there's not enough social workers. I feel as though Patricia Clement had probably lost touch with being a social worker, because I guess they have to fill out a body chart. If they acknowledge that there's clear bruises on a child, they need to document that on a body chart. That way every time they visit, they know that it's on their file, that they know that this is what they had before and what's new this time. They said that she had claimed that Gabriel was in no risk of endangerment and that he had no bruises or marks, which is false because she said exactly the opposite of what was going on, leading for DCFS to believe that no other measures need to be taken because this is what's been reported. So the DA was trying to charge the social workers with child endangerment resulting in death and falsifying documents and public records. They were fired, but I don't think that they should have served jail time, which they didn't. They did not. Judge Lomelli had actually decided to just throw out the case. Them being fired and not able to apply for social worker jobs or anything with that nature of a career should they be applying for. Another thing that kind of upset me was that I work with law enforcement. It's a little hard. Kind of piggybacking off of what I said earlier about the sheriff going to Gabriel Fernandez's home and threatening him and putting him in the back of the cop car. That is very frustrating because they're hired to keep the community safe, and I definitely feel like they failed Gabriel. And what had actually happened was the person who was in charge of the sheriff's department at the time, he was known for being very scandalous and problematic. He was not following the Constitution, I believe. When he had acknowledged that they were in some pretty deep shit, they actually started doing their own investigation, 3 years worth, matter of fact, and they decided not to tell anybody. And when Hatami had acknowledged that, the DA, he requested for that to be turned over to him, and the sheriff's department was not complying with him. So therefore the DA had to file a petition motion, basically to get this paperwork, to get this investigation, all the papers from the sheriff's department that they conducted without telling anybody. When Jonathan Hatami, the DA, realized that they were not complying, he took it to court, and Judge Lomelli had made them hand over the paperwork. And when Hatami was going over it, he realized that so many things in this investigation that the sheriff's department conducted definitely helped their case in bringing justice for Gabriel. And he was kind of like, well, if that's the case, why did you guys not feel obligated to hand that over to me? This is not a perfect world, okay? We all know that. There's definitely corrupt officers, definitely corrupt police departments, and me working with law enforcement, it's kind of hard to, the law enforcement officers that I work with are just very, I just can't imagine that happening. Although I am surrounded by great officers and great people and who are actually there to do their job and to protect our community, it sucks that the LA County Sheriff's Department couldn't do everything that they can to help Gabriel's case. One of the gruesome things that happened to Gabriel, while they were conducting his autopsy, they actually found cat litter in his stomach. Pearl Fernandez and Isaro were feeding Gabriel only cat litter. That's all that they found in his stomach. They didn't find any other food during the autopsy. So this boy was starving, eating off of cat litter, basically. I think the DA, John Hatami, did a very wonderful job in prosecuting Isauro Aguirre and Pearl Fernandez. He was emotionally invested in this case, and I think he did everything in his power that he could to bring justice for Gabriel. And to be honest, they had ample amount of evidence that shows and only points fingers, well, not only, but mostly points fingers to Gabriel's parents. And I'm saying parents because Isaro was that father figure to Gabriel. And what kind of sucked was that Gabriel's dad, Arnold Contreras, had just gotten out of jail about 1.5 years before the whole trial had gone on. And he felt so at fault for what had happened. He thought that if he was not in prison at that time, he could have prevented this from happening. And someone, and I didn't write it down this time, but someone in the series said that no child should die in the hands of their parents. Now that hits hard. Although I am not a mother, I am a older sister, like way older sister of 3 younger brothers. One is 5 years old, one is 6 years old, and the other, I believe, is 9. Either 8 or 9. No, he's 8. He's turning 9 this month. Although I am not a mother, I cannot imagine that happening to my brothers, let alone my child if I have one in the future. And what was sad was that Gabriel, a couple weeks leading up to his death, it was Mother's Day. Jennifer Garcia, his teacher, being aware of the situation, was trying to comfort Gabriel and say, you know, if you don't want to do the Mother's Day activity, you don't have to. And Gabriel was like, yeah, I'll do it. And Jennifer Garcia was like, oh, okay. So basically, they were making little things for their mothers, the students' mothers, because it was Mother's Day. And I'll insert a picture right here, as I've been doing along the whole video, of the things that Gabriel had made for his mom. Oh my god. There was things that he said, like there was a coupon that said, this coupon is good for a time for you and me. There was another one that had said, my mom is beautiful and she's pretty. And it's just like, it sucks that because this is his mom, although she is inflicting all this pain on her child, that Gabriel he's still looking for assurance and acceptance in his mom. It sucks because I'm sure this whole time he's thinking, well, she loves me, my mom loves me, and it's like she's hurting him, or she was hurting him. Sorry. If my voice is ranging, it's because I'm going through a lot of emotions right now and I'm trying not to cry. Those are kind of my thoughts. I have a lot more thoughts, but I feel I don't want this video to be long, and I feel every time I sit down to film, I'm always like a deer in headlights. I forget everything that I want to say. But I kind of want to start wrapping this up now, and I want to talk about what happened to Isaura Aguirre, what happened to Pearl Fernandez, and what happened to the social workers. I kind of already said that, but I'm going to just retouch on that again. Isaura Aguirre was found guilty of murder. He was sent straight to the San Quentin State Prison. They actually have not chose a date to have Mr. Aguirre, ew, I said that weird, Mr. Aguirre? What have I been saying this whole time? Isaura Aguirre. There we go, Mr. Aguirre. They have not set a date for his death penalty to take charge. So he was charged with first-degree murder and was sentenced to be put to death by the death penalty. Just to let you guys know, all of this information from today's video is subject to change. Please acknowledge that this video is going to be posted on Sunday, and this information can be changed at any given time, okay? Keep that in mind, please. Moving on to the social workers, I did say earlier, they did go to trial. Judge Lomelli had definitely sent them to trial. They were trying to say that they didn't have enough evidence to prosecute them for that. Someone, I don't remember who, someone eventually had told the judge, you know, like, just throw out their case. They can't be charged with anything. There's not enough sufficient evidence. So, of course, Judge Lomelli, which this person who had told Judge Lomelli was definitely, like, his superior, and obviously Judge Lomelli had to just dismiss the case. So that's where that goes. I don't believe that those people, Stephanie Rodriguez, Patricia Clement, Garrett Moon, I don't remember his name, and another guy, I don't believe they're working for DCFS right now. So I don't think they ever will. They shouldn't. I definitely want to talk about Pearl Fernandez and where she is now. I feel like, even though I would love to go one-on-one with Pearl Fernandez and just be... Anyways, I feel like I wish I knew more about Pearl Fernandez. Like, I wanted to hear more about Pearl Fernandez throughout this series, because she is the one who let this all happen. And it was funny because as Edgar and I were watching this, I watched the series twice, by the way, but as me and Edgar were watching it, because me and Edgar love watching 60 Days In and just Beyond Scared Straight, we love those kinds of shows. And with our experience from watching those shows, Edgar was like, oh, she's gonna get her ass beat, like, oh, that's gonna suck. And I'm like, no babe, she's not, because she's gonna be the ringleader. Because if you think about it, she's serving she's serving life, basically, with the possibility of no parole. People like that, they want to maintain such a specific reputation to not be messed with, basically. And I felt like this is the kind of thing that Pearl Fernandez would try to go for. But I was wrong. I definitely wanted to know a lot about, like, how is Pearl inside the jail. In the series, they show a very small snippet of Pearl Fernandez, and she's like, yo, get the camera out of my face, man. Don't Fernandez me. Like, she's just being rowdy for no reason. And, you know, the COs are like, you know, calm down, you know, they're trying to get her to comply, and she won't. So I was just very curious to see how she would do with the rest of the female population going on in the jails. I actually brought this up to my mom yesterday, and because normally Saturday mornings are our things. We drink coffee, we talk chisme, and, you know, we catch up from the week before. And I had told her, I wonder how Pearl Fernandez is doing in jail. And she was like, well, actually, I just watched a video this morning about her in jail. So I want to talk about this for the people who don't feel that there was nothing done to Pearl other than being sentenced to prison for the rest of her life. And for people who don't think that that's enough, which technically, legally, that is enough. That's all that they could do. My mom sent me the link to this video, and I'll go ahead and link it down below. I don't know the guy who had posted it, which my bad on my end. But basically in this video, or before, he had told his followers, hey, you know, you guys are asking me this about what's going on with Pearl Fernandez and how she's doing in prison. And he said whoever gets out or whoever had served their time with Pearl Fernandez, reach out to me. I want to hear from you. And basically someone did. And this girl is named Isabel. I'm just going to go by her first name. Her name is Isabel, and she explained to this guy how they had acknowledged what she was in there for. So supposedly Pearl Fernandez was lying about her status in the prison, saying that she was in there because of child abuse and neglect, but that it was her boyfriend who had done it. But she had, you know, she was at fault for it too, legally. So people are believing this, you know, and I guess one time when the CO was at her cell, the CO had spoke to Fernandez and said, how can you sleep so peacefully when you killed your kid? And Pearl Fernandez's cellmates heard this, and you know, people in prison, they don't mess around, you know, especially with people who rape people, so people who rape and I was about to say it. Child killers, there you go. Anything to do with child abuse or killings, that is not accepted amongst the community in the prisons. They do not like that. Basically, all her cellmates heard, word got around, and people were plotting to attack Pearl Fernandez, and which they did. It was chow time. That means it was time for them to eat. Pearl Fernandez was in front of this group, and of the group who were plotting to jump Pearl Fernandez, and I guess someone went to go drop kick her. People threw hot coffee on her body. Isabel had said in the video that someone with a tuna can lid, she said she didn't know what kind of lid it was, but something similar to a tuna can lid was used to slice up Pearl Fernandez's face. There you have it. I myself can say that and you know, we as people should never want pain to be inflicted on others, because you know, it's wrong. Why would, you know, why? It's just wrong, okay? But in this case, Pearl Fernandez, what happened to Pearl Fernandez is nothing like what happened to Gabriel. Just this one time. But when people constantly start finding out, no matter what group of or what population that Pearl Fernandez is stuck with, I feel they will eventually find out, and every time there will be problems. Now, I think that is what serves justice, is that Pearl Fernandez will go on for the rest of her life running away from her own problems. Gabriel, he had to live through this, and now Pearl Fernandez has to live through this. As far as Isauro Aguirre, I do not know his current status in the jails, like if anybody has found out or if anybody has tried to jump him or anything, but usually stuff like that is definitely not tolerated amongst the people who are incarcerated there at the prisons. Basically, I kind of jumped the gun because I was really excited to say that. What happened to Pearl Fernandez? Pearl Fernandez pleaded guilty to the murder of Gabriel Fernandez, her son. She is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Sorry, I know I jumped the gun. I was very excited to say that, of what happened to her. But overall, this whole story, it kind of sucks because Gabriel had to be the boy to make everybody realize and acknowledge that the system needs to be changed and fixed. It definitely needs to. And I didn't talk too much about Gabriel because I totally had a plan on going on and filming this video and talking about Gabriel and honoring him. I would have not been able to get through the video. Obviously, I have put pictures in the video to show you of who Gabriel was. Why do you have kids if you know that you don't want to take care of it? Do you know what I mean? It's just, why would you do that? Why would, it sucks. But then again, no, yeah, it sucks. I wasn't gonna bring up abortion, but I don't even want to talk about that. I feel like before I wanted to be a psychologist working in the correctional facilities, speaking to incarcerated inmates. and, you know, basically being there for them. But I feel because of what happened, and we kind of got an insight of what was going on with Pearl Fernandez and Isauro Aguirre, I feel like I don't want to know what's going on with them. I don't want to know why you, I mean, it'd be interesting, or why did you kill this person? But then they say, oh, I did it because I felt like it. Like, you fucking fuck. Like, fuck you. I don't care. I mean, it's a good job, I know that, and I know that I wanted to do that, and I mean, that's still kind of my current thing, but it's, then again, I want to help children. Do you know what I mean? I want to be able to be there for children. I want children to be able to talk to me and feel like they can tell me things, and where there's something that's not going on the way that it should, that needs to be reported. Something needs to happen. Obviously, they're seeing a therapist for a reason, and I'm gonna figure out what the problem is, because no. System needs to change, and I'm going on a rant. I'm sorry. I just can't imagine how you would be able to even do that to your own kid. It's so sad, and you know, I feel so bad for Gabriel Fernandez's family, like his great uncles who were taking care of him from birth, and his grandparents, and it just, oh my god, imagine what they're going through. This video, I feel like, was a lot. Thank you guys for hearing my thoughts on this situation. I'm gonna close that damn freaking window. Thanks for listening to me talk about it, hearing my thoughts on it and my views, and hearing me rant, and for watching me mess around with this pen. I just noticed. I apologize if, see, I'm doing it again. I apologize if that was very annoying. If you guys see something, this doesn't need to necessarily have to do with acknowledging child abuse. This is for anything. Anything. Please tell someone. Have you ever thought, let's get deep for a second. Well, I've been deep this whole video, but let's get more deep for a second. Have you ever thought about the people who have died that you've ever met? So years ago, when you went to the movie theaters and you accidentally bumped into somebody and were like, oh, sorry. Have you ever thought if they're still alive? How many times have you had encounters with people and those people are still alive? Have you ever thought about that? Just me? Okay, never mind. Sorry for the mood change. I felt at first that I wanted to be very respectful of Gabriel and keep my calm and cool, but I feel like, well, one, because everybody's gone and I can be more myself. I felt like to be able to give you my perspective and my thoughts, I kind of had to be a little bit more myself, because then it's not me, right? If you find yourself not knowing what to do with yourself, like you don't know, you're going to school but you haven't chose a career path, think about doing something for the system. Be a social worker, work at the courts, do something where you can help this society and we can become better. Please. It's kind of annoying how people, and you know, people have different views of law enforcement, but I feel like if you have such negative thoughts of it, what are you doing to change that? What are you doing? Think about it. I really want to know your guys' thoughts on this. This series just came out a couple weeks ago, so it's very new, but I really want to know your guys' thoughts. What do you think about Pearl Fernandez? What do you think about Isauro? And if you have any kind words about Gabriel Fernandez, please share, you know, not just for me, but for other people who want to see it. Please go ahead and leave something down below. Like I said, I'm going to leave that video about Pearl Fernandez and her getting sliced up in prison down below. I shouldn't say it smiling. It's going to be down below. And if you haven't watched that series, The Trials of Gabriel Hernandez... What? I was watching Aaron Hernandez the other day. I'm sorry. If you haven't watched The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez, it is available on Netflix. And if you guys like these kind of videos where I kind of talk about crime, let me know, because I actually really liked filming this video. Like, I legit did some digging, and I told you I have a lot more to say, but I don't want this video to be long. I literally have 8 pages of notes. Like, y'all, I did not come, oh, it's not that page. I did not come to play. Please let me know. I'll definitely do that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please be safe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.